Hi, you all. I'm Missy Warner. I am a facilitator for Curable, and I've had the most wonderful experience being with Curable as a facilitator for over 6 years. And what I've seen time and time again from everyone that has been in my groups or classes or called me or whatever is that they all say, oh man, recovery stories. I just have loved listening to recovery stories because they've given me some hope. And I've been able to figure out this. I've really come to grips with the fact that I'm not alone. So then we reached out, or Rosanne and Zoey volunteered. So we're going to hear recovery stories from them. When we get started here, we'll, for each of them, Rosanne, I will introduce her first, but really she'll go into her own personal story and start at the beginning because I think it's important from a context perspective for you all to understand where she started. And then she will clearly, as she moves along, be able to highlight sort of the turning point, if you will, in her experience. But I'm so glad you're here. These recovery stories they are amazing for us all to hear. Again, it gives us hope. We understand there's a process here, and sometimes it's slow and steady and compassion that really is the focus. So, Rosanne, welcome, and Zoe, welcome, both of you. But Rosanne, we'll start with you. Why don't you just dive in here with your story? Oh, and by the way, Roseanne's right down the street from me. We're both in Colorado. When I say down the street, that is a theoretical thought. And Zoe's in Australia, so she's a day ahead of me. How nice. All right, Roseanne, take it away.
Sure thing. I just want to say I couldn't agree with you more about the recovery stories. And they were a huge part of my getting hope again. So I was injured in 2005, and I'd been pretty healthy up till then. Very active, 3 children. I was a chiropractor, and I injured my back. And I'm starting to forget some of the details of the story, but I first injured my back, and that was starting to get better. And then I injured my hip. And between the two of them, I just tumbled down a deep, dark hole. Over time, symptoms weren't getting better. I was a structuralist as a chiropractor, and I tried everything known to man or woman about, what I could do to help myself. And instead, what happens, I got worse. And I used to think of it as being down 30 feet down under the ground. And I was in severe pain. I was disabled. My symptoms were in my leg, mostly in my ankle. And come to find out later that I also had headaches that were neuroplastic and also hip issues that were neuroplastic, but I didn't figure that out till later. But this lasted from about 2005 until I found Curable in 2022, April 2022. But I was basically disabled from being a chiropractor. You got to be able to move and walk, and I couldn't do any of that. In fact, I was going to bed at 6 at night just to get away from it, because sleep was a really wonderful way for me to get away from it. And I could lay on my right side with my top leg could be bent 5 or 10 degrees, but that was about it. And I have 3 children, so I couldn't really taking care of them. A friend was taking them to school and picking them up, and I was just barely getting through the day, truly. So I remember sitting just as still as I could, hoping it would make me feel better, and it never did. I lived like this for a long time. There were periods where I got better for a couple 3 weeks, and then there were times when I actually felt better for a day. I thought, wow, if I can get better for a day, maybe I can get better. But this went on for 18 years. It's a long time. Yeah, and it drastically affected my life and my ability to do anything in my life. It was very depressing. I was pretty miserable. Curable was the first to um, clue me in. My husband was very manipulative and controlling, and he actually started leaving town for 6 weeks to go away in winter, and I actually had time to think because I didn't have him there to tell me what I should think. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I'm one of those people pleasers, and I have 3 children, one of them with special needs, and I was a chiropractor, and life was just clobbering me, and I was just overwhelmed, and perfectionist. I really fit a lot of the inner critic. Yeah, I fit a lot of the issues that I have uncovered over the last 3 years. The first ray of sunshine came. I discovered Alan Gordon's book, The Way Up,
Mm,
and I read it. And it's so easy to read, and
yeah.
he's funny. And and then somehow, I don't remember the exact timeline, but somehow in there I found Curable, and I got the app. I downloaded it, and what really convinced me that I had neuroplastic symptoms was about 2 or 3 weeks after I started listening to the app. So this was springtime. This was April. So in the morning, I'd listen to recovery stories. I listened to Fiona's recovery story. It's like, gosh, if she can get over that. And then, so in the morning, I'd listen while I was gardening to, an hour and a half. I'd listen to 2 recovery stories. And in the afternoon, I'd listen to brain education. And at night, I'd listen to somatic tracking and a meditation. And I'd lay down at night, and at least 50% of the time when I got up from the meditation and somatic tracking, my symptoms were gone. So that was nice, right? But they'd always come back. And typically, I was taking oxycodone 2 to 4 times a week, not at night generally, just to help me sleep. And two things really made me wake up to the fact that it was neuroplastic. I was in a little area in our house, and I can get the pain to go away by doing all kinds of different things. But it never stays away very long. I had a very stressful life, mind you. And but one day I had gotten it to go away, and I was just sitting there comfortably relaxing, and I was talking to my husband, and he was guilting me and shaming me about something, and I just got really angry. And within seconds, within just a few minutes, there it was. I mean, it was just right there, right? And so by that time, I had learned about the Panic Buster and somatic tracking on the app. So what I did is I did the Panic Buster, and I listened to Alan Gordon's somatic tracking. 0. Pain went to 0. Oh, wow, look at that. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm a structuralist. That's what I did for a living. I've been to a million seminars on structure, right? So the second thing that really convinced me was I had the habit of, usually when I needed to take oxycodone was in the middle of the night because I really needed to sleep. That was just like not negotiable for me. And I took oxycodone. Well, this one particular night, I said to myself, and this was creating a message of safety for myself. I said to myself, okay, what I usually do is I get up. By this time, I was taking magnesium and chamomile at night. And by this time, I was going on the Facebook Curable page, which has been so helpful to me. In fact, the very first time I went on the Curable Facebook page, there was a woman who said she was hiking 6 or 7 miles. I love to hike. This was one of the things that I missed more than anything else. And so when I saw that, I wished I had kept her name, so I knew who she was, but I saw it, right? In fact, tomorrow I'm going on a 6-mile hike with a friend here in Colorado, right? But at that time, I could do nothing. I mean, I was literally, I could do the bare minimum, but I was just getting through the day and in a lot of pain. So anyway, I'm getting up in the middle of the night. I said to myself, okay, I'm going to do, this is 3 a.m., I'm going to do some somatic tracking before I get out of bed. And if I'm still hurting after I take my magnesium and chamomile and look at the Facebook page, I'm going to take some oxycodone. that was my messages of safety to myself. Well, I'm going to take it if I need it, right? Well, I got up, I did my magnesium and my chamomile, and I went on the Facebook page. I got back to bed. Zero. Zero sensations. It's like, whoa, what is this? So that really woke me up. And then I did an evidence sheet, and a couple things that I did really turned it around for me. I didn't paint the picture how bad it was for me. It was awful. I mean, it was really awful. I had to lay on my right side a lot because sometimes that would help. I developed all these little things that might make the pain go away, but it always came back. And I had the hypervigilance, like, when's it coming back? It's taken me a long time to shed that. I'm finally kind of getting there where I don't have that anymore. I read about an evidence sheet, and then I started exploring the app, but I wrote down my evidence sheet. There was a ton of stuff on it. I think there was probably 25, 35, 40 things on it, right? Of symptoms that I had. Well, I looked at my evidence sheet about 3 weeks later, and some of them are gone. And the thing of it is, I listened to Aaron's story on the app because he had sensations like mine. And he said, well, he just walked to the mailbox the first time. So what I started doing is I just started walking. And I had sensations for a long time, and it's really only been in the last year that I really have connected with messages of safety and followed that thread. That is so important for me. When you explore the app, you try different things. Some things work, some things don't, But let's see. So that was 18 years. Well, I was injured in 2005, so I found Curable almost 18 years later. Yeah, so one night I was in bed. I don't know, this was probably 2 or 3 years ago. And I decided to do some somatic tracking. Well, the symptoms went from my ankle to my head to my hip to my ankle to my head. I mean, they were doing that, right? This happened like 3 or 4 times. 2, 3 or 4 times. Whoa, this is what they're talking about, right? And so I used to get headaches, and I was like, well, I rarely get them. I had to have a tumor removed on my spinal cord a year ago. I still don't get headaches, but things do happen. Like I fractured my back. I had an L4 compression fracture last fall, and I really had to ferret because I fell down that rabbit hole again. It's like because it was the same part of my body that I injured in 2005. And so my brain was like, it just got sucked right back into that, right? But the turning point has been initially huge because, but I still have to continue to cultivate that neuroplastic paradigm. And every now and again I'll listen to Dr. Strack's talk, or every now and again I'll listen to Dr. Schubner. But I've been doing his meditations in the morning, and I left my husband a year and a half ago. I moved out 2 years ago this August, and we're still in the middle of a divorce. But it's like I moved out on a Wednesday, and on a Friday I was on a Zoom. It's like I felt like I could breathe. Some days I felt great. I just went hiking with my daughters, which was a huge milestone for me. What was it, Saturday? And we went hiking up in Loveland in Devil's Backbone, and it was a beautiful hike. My body felt so good. And my friend texted me because she said, I sent her a picture, and she said, isn't that where we went like 4 or 5 years ago? And I said, yeah, except it's exactly where it went, except this time I felt so good in my body.
Oh,
I good.
that's so cool, Roseanne. I also want to tie into what you said about not just healing from the perspective of the event that happened 18 years ago, but how these curable strategies help us. Okay, wait. decades as we go by that some things, hey, good work, chassis. We get replacement parts, but we can't turn in the whole body here. And these curable strategies where we really understand that emotional component, this brain-based thinking piece of pain is in our brain, how those strategies work for us along a lifetime, if you will, from one sensation to another. I sometimes say I'm part of the head, shoulders, knees, and toes club, like the kids' song, right? So I just think these recovery stories are so great, and I really thank you for yours. And we're going to hear from Zoe here for a few minutes, and then the three of us will have a dialogue here as we pull together some of these uh, uh, similar paths, traits, process, if you will. So, Zoe, as I mentioned to you, it always makes me laugh when I say, "Hey, how's my tomorrow going to be?" Since I'm in Denver and you're in Australia, so it's a day ahead. But we would love to hear your story again from that perspective of the very beginning, so it helps with the context, if you will, and then really the process and the hey, the aha as you moved along to say, okay, I can understand this, a different way of healing here, a different way of reframing my thinking.
Most definitely. So my story began a few years ago. I had just had my two children and was returning to work. I had an electrician by trade, so my job was um, a lot of physical work, I guess. I still did full-time hours and all those sorts of things. I got a viral infection, a Ross River from the mosquitoes. So I had a week off, didn't really think too much of it. I just kept going to work and doing what I was doing. Um, Slowly but surely, and I didn't really see it um, come on, I guess, but I was slowly getting more fatigued. I um, got nausea, just terrible nausea, the body aches and pains that come along with the Ross River. And for a very long time, I thought it was the Ross River. Ross River is the same symptoms as a pretty bad flu. So I had a lot of fevers, all of the nausea, the headaches, body aches and pains. The nausea just got worse and worse, and they slowly got to the point where I was having episodes. I was hiding in the bathrooms at work to have a few minutes to be able to calm myself out of feeling like what I was going to be sick. And this just got progressively worse over months, to the point where I had a panic attack on site. I ended up being on the floor of the security hut with the ambulance on its way. At the time, I had no idea what was happening to me. I was in a world of hurt and a lot of fear was going on. They took me to the hospital, did all the regular checks as they do. They said, you've got nothing wrong with you. You've got Ross River. You need to go home and just relax, just sleep it off. See a doctor in a few days and see how you go. The next few days spiraled out of control. I had work call me telling me not to return to work until I was better. I had multiple doctors look at me saying that there's nothing wrong with me, but I was still in agony, absolute pain, fevers, the whole entire thing. I just could not move. This went on for a few months. I had tried every medication that any doctor was willing to stop the pain, basically. Um, a few more months went by. I had doctors refer me to different specialists. I ended up meeting a lot of incredible people here where I live, that put me on the naturopath way. So I had a naturopath and a nutritionist to try and get my eating and my vitamins, I guess, to try and fight the Ross River. Um, uh, Eventually, a few more months went by. I was to and from a specialist, a rheumatologist, which eventually diagnosed me with fibroid. 8 months later, I finally got all clear to return to work. I returned to work still having pains. The only thing that was different is that I wasn't having panic attacks anymore. I went on for another 2 years with this pain, hiding it from everyone, hiding it from my workplace that I was feeling this way, that I would have these um, episodes, I suppose we could call them, until eventually I found a doctor that said, I really feel like you're going through emotional pain. Have you heard of this chronic pain app? And that is the first moment that I realized that this was more than just, uh, I don't know, just the first time I realized that this was bigger than what I was going through. I guess the app, I had the biggest breakthroughs with the app. 3 months was the best I had felt in years. Um, so I appreciated everything that I learned in the app. The little activities, the uh, such a relief. I know that I still have pains and episodes to this day, but I deal with it in different frame of mind. I approach it in a different way. I have learned how to live life pretty much to the full, knowing full well that my nervous system isn't the best anymore. But I enjoy it. I really just wish I had found this app so much sooner than what I actually did. Yeah, back to full-time work, being a mum, doing all the things that I love, just in a completely different frame of mind.
Oh, Zoe, that's what a great story to hear from the just more of the details here. Like what do you think really resonated with you when you were first on the app?
I guess it was the
Or resonated with
connection.
you or your body, right? I mean, what
Yeah,
the aha, what really helped you from this connection of the emotion, the brain, the interrelatedness?
yeah. In a way, the way that I was treated beforehand, like even though I'd been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, I sort of didn't really understand it. A lot of doctors that I was seeing in the small town that we're rural, most of them didn't really believe in it. So I was sort of stuck between a place where I didn't know whether it was what was happening to my body was real, but I could feel the pain. It would move throughout the body. I would have moments, I'd have episodes that would last for days. I would have episodes that would last hours. Um, but when I started this app, just the explanation of where the pain comes from and that it's the brain that's telling you and that it makes memories and it's like just how they intertwine and how if you look at the biggest one was writing down like the events that had happened in my past life that may have been causing the emotional pain rather than it being physical, even though it was causing physical pain within the body. So even just understanding how that works and how events in your life can trigger a physical injury, even though it didn't actually physically hurt you. Yes, unreal. I can't, yeah, it's a learning that I just never knew. It's even something that I would contemplate, even people that don't have chronic pain, that it's something that is interesting. It's amazing how the body works, and it's just how it's explained. Yeah.
And it sounds like you also were able to follow through from the app with a lot of the different writing exercises.
Yes, I took advantage of a lot of the writing activities. Um, like I said, in 3 months of using the app, I had changed my whole entire life pretty much. And I had been working on it and seeing specialists and psychologists and you name it. I pretty much had it, um, but each one of them, and don't get me wrong, each one of them did something, for me. They helped me get through a certain pain or a certain understanding, but just the app ties everything together. It explains why you need to be, putting all those connections together, basically. Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, well, why don't we open ourselves up here for just a conversation from the three of us? And if someone is listening to these stories, and if you saw yourself really as hearing a recovery story for the first time, what would you want to hear? What would you want to share with somebody who's listening to this story and listening to even thinking about Curable for the first time?
One of the biggest things that um, I didn't actually realize that I had a chronic pain. I know that sounds weird, and I know that I got sort of diagnosed with fibro. But I didn't actually realize what that actually meant. Where when I started this app or started the journey with the curable side, that all those connections were made. So that's probably really like sometimes you just don't even, you just may not realize exactly what's actually going on, if that makes sense. Yeah.
What do you think, Roseanne?
I think there's a certain amount of emotional fear, whatever, the pain pathways, fear, anxiety, and pain, they're in the same pathways. And so I think each person has to figure it out for themselves, but you won't know if you don't try.
Mm, yeah, good advice. Zoe, you're smiling on that one.
Yeah, definitely. It is. Yeah, definitely. Everyone's path, everyone's experiences, even our recovery stories are all going to be different. But that makes it unique, and that's what makes it so much more special is and be able to do it, for ourselves. Is that, yeah, definitely agree.
So one of the questions I get frequently asked is, how long is this going to take? Right? I mean,
Yes.
it's so much easier to say I want to get rid of the X, whatever the X is, than to say, hey, wait a minute, let me go upstream and really figure out why is my nervous system on hyper alert, right? What are
Yeah.
some of these emotional components? And so the healing path itself is everybody's path is their own path, but when you think of a timeline of, it sounds to me that both of you had steady progress. Although Zoe, it sounds to me like your progress from certain perspectives, it may have, if you're listening, the listener might say, "Oh, well, she was really speedy. What did she do?" But when did your body, sort of the time frame of when did your body say, "Hey, I'm gonna let go of this. I'm gonna let go of these sensations." When you think of time frame, what do you think?
Um, like I said, from the initial to finding the Curable app, that was a very, very slow process. It was a day to day, it was minute to minute. At some stages, it just felt like I was never going to get anywhere. It was, I guess, I did do a lot of recovery stories and all those sorts of things as well. I think it's how you approach it as well. If you approach it with an open mind and just take on anything and be willing to just keep reading and keep listening to, most powerful thing to me to this day is listening to other people's stories. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure how it empowered me and to get me through those days that I just really didn't know whether they were going to end. I really do believe that, yeah, it's about that power of continuing to learn and just don't even to this day, I feel amazing. I still live my life, but I don't stop learning. I still listen to everyone's stories. I still feel like I don't ever want to stop understanding the body, all these sensations that can happen. I do, yeah, I think it's definitely how you approach it. If you're willing to approach it and take on everything, you could, yeah, we could be talking weeks and months. And then if you're a bit, like a little, I guess, um, where we get our information from too. Like I said, I wish I had been introduced to the Curable app so much sooner than what I was, to the point where I just recommend it to everyone, anyone who talks about even some symptoms that I was experiencing, regardless of whether they've been diagnosed or done anything. I just go, just give it a go, because anything's better than nothing. And that's pretty much how it is, yeah.
What do you think, Roseanne, from this pathway from the aha, right? From, okay, I found the Curable app, or I read Alan's book, but then the app, from where you really felt healed, or the healing process from the timeline perspective.
Well, I can actually tell you that because for a long time I would walk, but I would not feel good. And then I had a tumor removed from my spinal cord um, in April a year ago. And it was really interesting because I was taking Anna Holtzman's writing workshop, and she really connects with self compassion. And that was the missing key for me. Um, the self compassion, because I remember, because after you have surgery, one of the things that really helps is walking, but you take short little walks. But it was really interesting. How am I going to deal with this? I got this acute surgical pain in my neck, but I got this thing in my ankle, right? And so when I would take my little 5 or 10 minute walks, I just give myself messages of safety. And I'd say, "You're okay. You're going to be okay." And I'd be really gentle with myself, which I didn't get growing up, and I certainly didn't experience in my marriage. And so Anna's um, gentleness and the messages of safety that I continue to increase that language in my brain, it just really helps, offset. I'm going through divorce, and after 34 years, and things happen, and so it's like my life is not totally stress free, but I recognize it. I know why I'm jacked up right now, and I don't like it, but I'm not. I know it's going to go away, and I know that. And the more that I understand from somatic tracking, it's like, well, just it's okay to have the sensations because you actually need the sensations to be with them, to accept them, to love yourself through them. That's how I feel like. And so I think that was a turning point, and that was about a year ago. I listened to Anna on one of the Curable podcasts, and I thought, yeah, I really like her. So I took her writing workshop for a while. And that's the other thing is writing was really helpful to me. And so she had a writing workshop. So it was, again, so what do I have to lose? So I tried it.
Oh, that's so great. Because I can hear from both of you from this, okay, kind, compassion, think full mind body. So often we can just say, oh, this body part's bugging me, as opposed to going, hey, wait, let me look at the whole picture, the emotional picture, social picture, right? Boundaries, inner critic. How are we thinking about our thinking? What's going on in there, right? Between our brain, in our brain, so to speak.
Yes.
So I'm really glad that both of you have really come to this point, because it truly sounds like both of you have, say, recreated yourselves in your lives. Is
Totally.
that
And I
fair to
just want to
say?
add another thing, if I could.
Yeah, of course.
Um, Giving yourself messages of safety isn't like a pain pill. Pain pill just takes it off, right? But it's like I'd noticed after I went for my little 5 or 10 minute walks, and I gave myself messages of safety that, not too long after, my ankle would feel better. And so it doesn't happen right away. It's not a drug, and
Mm,
sometimes, I have to sleep on it, but most of the time I don't. And
yeah.
so I think it's just a different way of working with your nervous system, and it's really empowering, and it's so joyous, and it's like you have no idea. Maybe you do, Missy, but anybody who's been in my shoes
Yeah.
knows the true joy that they feel when they're not encumbered by those sensations anymore. And I can say to my friend, "Yeah, let's go hiking Friday." That's tomorrow, instead of, "Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to go or not because I might not feel good." And that's kind of the way it was before. And so now I can say, "Yeah, let's go Friday. It's going to be sunny."
That's right. I'm safe in this moment, and in this moment, I'm safe and I'm ready to roll.
Yeah.
Hey, Zoe, what advice would you give, or what strategy? It sounds like Roseanne's key strategy here is a message of safety, which I agree surely works for me. But what would you like to share as a strategy, if you will?
Um, for me, I have a few, but the main one is just to take it moment by moment and with the information that you have. Um, Music and podcasts and just doing those little things as well, they all help in the road to recovery, to understanding your body for yourself and what works for you is probably the most important thing. Yeah, don't don't not try anything because you just never know what works and you just don't know what doesn't work too. There's heaps of stuff that I tried and it just didn't work for me, but I just tried the next thing and you will find a way to get through it. You'll find the things that work the best for you and you'll come across the most amazing people and just hold on to those moments and keep them going.
Oh, well, thank you. I might also add, I heard motion is lotion from you, Roseanne, which I agree with, but also music. So this
Yes.
combination, right? Dance, moving,
Mhm.
uplifting,
Yeah.
uplifting soundtracks, if you will. Did that come
Yeah.
into play for either or both of you from
So
putting a playlist together? Right.
yeah, no, part of my healing was totally doing pottery and listening to music. So when I was living there was one bedroom where it was like, I got that bedroom. It was a small bedroom, but it was totally uncluttered, and all that was in it was a bed and a dresser and a workspace for my clay. And I started doing clay like 4 or 5 years ago, which I love doing, and I've been doing it more and more. But it was really, I would put on music that took me back to my childhood, or music that I really liked. And I would just play with clay. And I made a lot of things. And the thing that I noticed was this, because before I found Curable and started working with clay, I couldn't stand for more than a minute or two. I mean, I was just having sensations a lot of the time, and standing was like awful, right? But I was in a job that I didn't really like. I was working with my husband, who was really a brutal taskmaster, and I didn't really know how, I didn't have a way out. And so I started doing pottery, and I would close the door so I could just listen to music, and I'd spend a couple hours in there. And I noticed my leg felt okay. And I was
Mhm.
standing and I was working on clay. I was playing and I was listening to music. So when you said that, Zoe, it really
Yeah.
resonated with. Even now, I listen to music and it just makes me feel good.
Yeah, definitely. I use music. I will continue to use music as one of my biggest. Yeah, it doesn't matter if I use them for happy moments or even sad moments, but I, yeah, definitely love music and I just find it very powerful. Definitely.
So the other thing I'm hearing about this, so often we think in terms of wait, I have to get better before there's joy or play or enjoyment, if you will.
Yeah.
Whereas what I'm hearing from you all is, hey, we went for the joy first. We went for the music, the walking, and then the healing flowed It's almost like reverse thought process, right? From that perspective, if I'm hearing you both correctly.
Well, it's not intentional. Like my PRT therapist told me the other day, if you're doing something to make you feel better, it's sort of a backwards effect psychologically. I just did it because I loved it. I did it because for me, just putting my hands in the clay and moving it around and shaping it and carving it and listening to music in the quiet and peace, it just felt delicious to me. It felt wonderful. It felt really like I got to be myself and enjoy it. But and that is the thing that I've learned is that if you try and do something to get a result, lots of times it's going to backfire you on you. It's not going to happen because you're trying to fix yourself, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes you have to just kind of see it, yeah, kind of go with it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what I was going for. I don't know that maybe I didn't say it exactly in that space, but I just think when the joy happens, healing happens. And so often people think they need to wait until they heal to feel that way. Whereas you're in agreement, I think that, yeah, go for
Yeah.
the joy first. Go for the things that you love and things that bring that, put that smile on your face.
Yeah. I definitely feel like don't not try anything though. That is so important. I tried to continue doing things that I thought I loved, but when life changes, people changes, things change. When I started trying new things, I found new things and I found new things that made me excited and happy. So yeah, I really just don't rule out everything neither. Definitely keep trying. Yeah.
Oh, great. Hey, well, I just want to thank you both for sharing because I know these recovery stories made a difference for both of you, right? So
Yeah.
it's so wonderful to be able to spend time with you and to hear your stories and to know that you're sharing from this heart space where you know it's going to help others as well. So, hey, thank you very much. And I know our
Mm.
paths will cross sometime soon.
Thank
You're blessed and a blessing. Bye bye.
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Bye.